Okay, so the Pixel 4a was just announced, and I have a lot of things to talk about. But first, I just want to mention these last 2 months, like July and August, has had a lot of stuff in the tech world that we did not expect. We usually expect October, which we codename Techtober, to have all the major stuff and major tech releases, but slowly each year I think they shift away. Last year we didn't have much in October, and this year we have even less planned for October, and that's something I noticed, and I've been trying to keep you guys updated as much as possible. We had the OnePlus Nord, which I covered, the Pixel 4a, and then soon we're gonna have, in 2 days, the Galaxy Note 20 series and the Galaxy Z Fold 2. I'm keeping you guys updated on all the stuff you need to know, so please do subscribe to the channel. That would help me out a lot. But now let's talk about the Pixel 4a. Now, we had a lot of hype that died out on this phone. First, this phone was supposed to be released in May, and that never happened due to the pandemic. It kept getting pushed, and then also they canceled the Pixel 3a earlier last month, and this phone is just completely under the radar now. Many people who are not too much into the tech world have kind of forgotten about this phone, and that kind of really helped Google, if you think about it, because people like tech enthusiasts like me have realized how good of a phone this is. We gave the OnePlus Nord so much hype, yet I believe this phone is better than the OnePlus Nord. I know I may get a lot of hate from some people because they kindly disagree, but I'll explain in this video why, at least for regions like the US and Canada, the Pixel 4a is an overall better phone. But first, let's just talk about all the major stuff about this phone, why it's sort of important, and why you should care, or if you're gonna buy it, why you need to buy it over the Nord or the iPhone SE. So here's a funny thing. The specs and the color and sort of many things about this phone is sort of a one take, or a one thing beats it all. So we have one spec, 6 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage, and then we have one color, which they call just black, or as we would call sensibly matte black, and it's sort of a minimalist approach. They don't really care about many different things. Now, one funny thing I thought of is that, say you have like a group of friends, maybe, and like one or two of them have, maybe three of them have the Pixel 4a, and they have the same stock wallpaper. Wouldn't it be kind of weird or a bit confusing at first? That's a weird hypothetical situation, but I just want to mention this is a minimalist approach and a different approach from what we've seen in other phones basically forever. And I think it's a good approach from Google, and we'll talk about this later. But let's talk about what you'd go for a Pixel in the first place, and that is, of course, the cameras. That is a standout feature in every single Pixel phone that's ever come out. I've tested the cameras on the Pixel 2 way back when it was released, and it's spectacular, so I'm only assuming it's gotten better since then. And this camera setup for this year is basically only one camera on the front, one camera on the back, but as we know from past experiences, one camera is all they need to do basically everything with all the software Google has. So it's an 8-megapixel front-facing camera and 12-megapixel rear-facing camera with some really crispy shots. Now, I, of course, do not have the phone in hand. I do not get a review unit, so I'll link some really good camera reviews and reviews where they talk about the camera below that like button. Now, let's talk about the display. It's a 5.8-inch OLED display, a bezel-less sort of layout with the hole punch on the left side. I completely do not care or do not bother about the hole punch. There are people who do mind it being there. I, in fact, prefer it over the center. The center is something that you would more look at when looking or picking up your phone, and it looks less aesthetically pleasing. So the corners where I like it. And this is also something I noticed. The OnePlus 8 and some similar phones like this have the same layout, which is a bezel-less screen, of course, and the hole punch in the left side. I don't know why this is. I don't know if it's like a new standard, the notch, but it's a common layout I've noticed in this year's 2020 phones. Now, I want to mention a couple downsides. First, it's only a 60 hertz screen, and I'm not very impressed. In fact, believe it or not, I was not impressed even with the 90 hertz screen on the OnePlus Nord, but then I had to snap back into reality. These are budget smartphones. These aren't even supposed to be at this price range. So 60 hertz should be more than enough at this price range. They're giving some good value, so the 90 hertz on the Nord is even better. This phone also does not come with wireless charging. I don't really care about wireless charging. In fact, I've stated that many times in previous videos, but many people do. So that's something to look out for. But I guess in this price range, you should be fine. And final thing to mention, this is a $350 phone. I've been mentioning the price this whole time. This undercuts both the iPhone SE and the US conversion of the Nord, because like I mentioned, the Nord is not in the US as of right now. So, mentioning the Nord and the iPhone SE, let's talk about why this beats the iPhone SE and beats the Nord, or it doesn't. Now, the Nord is in my opinion, show-off phone or an overused feature phone. I overviewed it in my last video, and I try to stick to no bias in my overviews. I want people to watch my overviews for only facts and no bias. But these are my thoughts videos, and I really tend to give my honest opinions, and that's why people watch it. So I definitely think that phone is a overhyped phone. It was given too much hype by OnePlus and the media, and people think of it as a really good phone. Don't get me wrong, it's nice. It's nice. I like the color. It has some decent screen specs. It has some decent internal specs, but it's just unnecessary. Let me explain. So on the back of the OnePlus Nord, they have what they call a quad camera setup. But look at it practically, and you only see two main cameras that you would actually use or are actually used. In fact, MKBHD dropped a really good video where he covered the two other cameras, which are sort of fake in a way, like the 5 megapixel depth sensor, which is used for portrait shots, or the 2 megapixel macro camera, which I don't need to explain why is bad. I've talked about it more than enough. Those two he sort of covered up, and it didn't even make a difference. And he's explained all about that bad camera. I'll link his video down below. But these cameras are not good. But if you think about it, they're trying to put 4 cameras in there to make it look like a flagship. And that's an ongoing theme with this Nord. It's like trying to be a flagship. It's trying to look like a flagship, but it's not one bit. Another thing I noticed with the cameras, but this time on the front, they have a dual camera setup. I've never seen dual camera setup in any OnePlus phones ever, yet they put it in this budget phone just to look complex in a way, and they try to advertise it as you never need a selfie stick. It has this wide angle and stuff, and it's overused. You see what I mean? Now, the 90 hertz is definitely not overused. That's a good feature, but overall, this phone was overhyped, and that's why I think the Pixel 4a gives all the major stuff you need, plus more, in a form factor that is perfect for a budget phone, especially at its price. Fact check that, let me show you the Pixel 4a. So the body overall is just a simple, clean, pretty decently sized phone with just a plain old color, a fingerprint sensor on the back, a decent sized screen with a hole punch on the left side. Nothing too major. In fact, it just has this plain old one camera, one lens on the back, which I don't think I've ever seen in any modern smartphone. But if you think about it, it's not trying to be anything big. It's just trying to be what it is. And that's what I like, the straightforwardness and simplicity of this phone. Like I mentioned, it's a minimalist. But then, if you think about it, with all the features it has, and again at that $350 price point, and it's available in the US, this phone is better than the OnePlus Nord. Like the straightforwardness up to the actual features, I think I'd prefer this phone, right? And I may again get a lot of hate for this, and you guys can argue with me in the comment section below. Like, I like to have a good talking point, argument, friendly discussion and argument, obviously, but it's a good thing to talk about which is better. But let's just move the Nord away for 1 minute, and let's talk about the iPhone SE. Now, the iPhone SE is a phone I was, let's just say, really not excited for, really happy for. There are people in this world who need smartphones with simple use, the home button, double tap for recents, stuff like that. They don't want to use this complex navigation gestures, and they need maybe a smaller phone. They need Touch ID, stuff like that. They just want a smaller form factor for that sort of iPhone experience at a lower price. that's why I sort of was happy for the iPhone SE. But for the Pixel 4a, I'm more excited for how much this phone delivers and offers, and that's why I separate the iPhone SE from the Pixel 4a. Now, the Pixel 4a has all the features you need for a tech enthusiast or a person in the tech world, just at that lower price. In fact, it undercuts the iPhone SE, but the iPhone SE has all the features for a non-tech enthusiast or non-tech savvy person, and plus more with the iOS experience and the iOS ease of use. That's what separates these two phones. And honestly, if it was for me, I would go for the Pixel 4a, but if I was an iOS person, I would maybe consider the iPhone SE, and that's my overall opinion on these two smartphones, the iPhone SE and the Pixel 4a. Where does the Nord come into this? Now, I know many of you who were buying the Nord and telling me them, talking about them in the comments section of my last or my previous video, and I have a statement for the Nord. If the Nord is available in your region, like India, China, places like that, go for it. I strongly suggest that phone. It has a really good color, really good internals, really good overall build quality and stuff like that. And especially since the Pixel 4a will only come in October to those regions, I strongly suggest you go ahead and buy that Nord. Whereas in the US and Canada, the Pixel 4a is your go-to. I don't care if the Nord comes anytime soon, say even September. Pixel 4a is your go-to unless you want to flex your fake 4-camera setup. This is a strong take by me, and I'm open to arguments in the comment section below. But that's your breakdown. Those are my thoughts, unscripted. I'll give you guys a full overview on today's Wednesday for the Note 20 Ultra, Note 20 series, and the Galaxy Z Fold 2. But until then, wear your masks, stay safe, and I'll sort of chat with you guys in the next one. Peace.